Hey there, John Paulus here with Life's Potluck Buffet, and today I drew a card right before I got on the air, so to speak, and that card was card number 37. And card number 37 is very special to me because it's based on an exercise that I've done with, I have stopped trying to count the number of people I've done this with. Is really anybody who's worked with me will tell you that I've asked them this question because I ask everybody this question. It's really a version of it. It's a way I enter into our conversations about how to think about your work life. Well, let me read the prompt to you. The card is different from others because you actually turn it upside down to see the second half of it. And that's something that I did because I had no way of replicating the surprise that happens when I tell people about what I'm listening for when they list the three or four things that they want to do with life going forward. So the prompt on the card is say three things that you want to do for yourself or others. And as with all of the cards, saying whatever's on the top of your head is what I recommend. And that's because you don't filter things out. Thinking, it's kind of like with sports. Do you know this analogy? Where athletes will tell you that as soon as they start thinking, that's where things fall apart. That's where the baseball rolls through their legs. That's where the tennis shots start going to the net. That's where the jump shots in basketball start bricking. Okay, so here is the prompt. Say three things that you want to do for yourself or for others. And when you answer this, whether you say it out loud or write it down, number your answers or put letters in front of them. 1, 2, 3, or A, B, C, or alpha, beta, gamma, or, okay, I'm not going to keep on going because I have a lot of letters from various languages I'm about to start saying. The reason for this, I will tell you after you write them down. So why don't you give it a shot if you don't mind. So say three things that you want to do for yourself or for others. So what did you write? Let me tell you that there's a reason this card has upside down writing on it, and that's because there's a little surprise, a little surprise ending. And that's because the third thing you said, the title, The Third Time is the Charm. The third thing you said is probably your priority. And I discovered this from doing an exercise like this. And as I said, I've done this exercise for years. I created it, I don't know, a while ago. And I found that each person who does it, that there's a pattern that emerges. And usually that's like A and B are things that you're doing right now, usually, because that's just what's on the top of your head. And then that kind of clears the air and allows for something surprising to emerge, often at C. And if it's not surprising for you, that's okay. Odds are it would be probably surprising for me because we probably hadn't talked about it already. And it's particularly kind of important to look for where the surprise is. Maybe if you don't know yourself where the surprise is, have someone else take a look at your list and see what, if anything, was surprising to them or why. Yeah, someone you trust, of course. You don't. Obviously, that goes without saying. I'm sure you're not asking people you don't trust. Well, maybe so. Maybe you are asking people you don't trust about things. So, yeah, let's focus on trusted people. That's important in this world. What I found is that all of these things, and when I do this exercise with people, I usually do 4 things because I like to have the kind of momentum peter out, which is usually what happens around D, because I usually do A, B, C, and D, or, other things emerge at that point. What I'm really trying to get is to that point where the person can say something out loud just without really thinking about it. And that's why it's surprising, because that filter that you usually have is no longer there. And I'm looking for that point where that filter goes away and we have something unfiltered. It sounds like some sort of comedy show, but you get the point. Life's Potluck Buffet Unfiltered. Maybe that'll be my next project. I could work in Vegas. What was your 3rd thing? If it's something that requires interpretation, you'll know because you say, well, I don't know why I said that, and I don't really know what that connects to. And part of this is natural because we can't, odds are if you're listening to this, you're thinking about things and you're looking for ways to get access to these hidden ideas and hidden experiences. So sometimes it's hard to interpret. That's obviously where I come in the equation when we do this live. I'd like to remind people that everything that they've written down are things that they do. They're things that they've already done, things that they are doing, things that they will do going forward. The really nice things about the 3 things that you said are that these are all starting points and they're not ending points, which is something that we don't think about when we give answers, because we give answers and we say, oh, well, those are the answers. And they are the answers, but they aren't the final answers. They are the launching point for anything that you're doing. I often find that the 3rd thing people say when we do this exercise is the key. It has something central about the work that they do, how they do that work. So I'd encourage you to look at your 3rd thing that you said and see what in it is central about the work that you do. You may have written a keyword like communication or, something like that. Or you may have written something literal like an actual piece of work or job or activity. Sometimes when we write those, as was the case with skydiving from Card 15, if you haven't seen that episode, just listen to that one. But as was the case with skydiving, sometimes the C will need interpretation, but it's a good starting point. I've had many instances of A being that for people who have really active entrepreneurial, I'll call it, imaginations, meaning that they're doing something in a business sense or in a work sense that they are actively working on, and that's at the top of their mind. But because most of the people I talk to are searching for something, searching for a handle on what their work needs to look like going forward, A and B is usually not it. If I had to say which least of all, I would say B. B really does tend to be part of this flow towards the third element of the exercise. What I would suggest to you as you try to figure these things out and look at them is to really focus on which one is surprising or feels like that's a core element of what I do or how I operate. And be honest with yourself about what that core element is, because it'll be helpful every time. But the most important part is to embrace all of these things that you do and use them to build upon. Use them as a foundation rather than the top of the building. Because in these things that you say, there's some core truth about the way that you work and the way that you do your work and the way that you will need to do your work going forward. So I hope you've liked the exercise today, and if you do, and if you want to try the other 54 exercises in Life's Potluck Buffet, just go to lifespotluck.com and get yourself a pack. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.